Well, this is a real treat for one Tony Robinson. I'm after many, many years of us getting together on social media. I'm delighted to introduce Jan Cavelle. And Jan is one of the top 25 entrepreneurial thinkers in Britain, and she is a top entrepreneur in a real business. She had a furniture company that I think went from selling to manufacturing in the end. Is that right, Jan?
That is right, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy way I've run to do it. Not the logical one, but that's me.
And then the last, I don't know, what, 7 or 8 years or something, you've obviously been working with lots of entrepreneurs, which is one of the things I love doing, writing about it, an inspirational speaker, and just a fantastic person who I'm delighted to meet. And we're going to concentrate, Jan, if we can, in this little segment of giving tips to business owners about what I think is the most important thing, which is actually selling, which is actually getting the business at the end of the day. And so I'll try and lead you in that kind of direction. But I'm intrigued to lead you right back to the furniture business which you built. You had ups and downs, you've said in that. What would you say were the things that you learned most about getting customers from the downs, from the things that weren't going well, the things that you realized that maybe we should be doing something differently, or we had to change something in order to get business?
I could go on about that for the whole session of all the mistakes I made with no possibility of running out of information. And I know you want to talk about sales. Oddly enough, we did sales well. Sales was always my thing. I mean, sales dated back for me till my teens, because it was a job you could always get when nobody else would employ you.
Right. Yeah.
And so I've done selling everything in my time on the phone mostly, but you name it. But I don't think I've ever done double glazing, but not far off. So yeah, it was sort of deeply ingrained. And as you say, I started off as a selling operation and added the manufacturing afterwards, which was a crazy way to do it. But of course, we were always strong on sales. And while I'm going to champion sales the whole way through this conversation, you can oversell. And that was one thing I know that I was guilty of, and I've met a few people, that's it, who do it too, is, you just can't resist. You've got to make another sale, and it's going so well. And what else could we sell? And then, of course, the rest of the business isn't ready to produce it or whatever. So it's sales with a caveat, but yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, interestingly, so many times there was a turning point in our business. I've run business with my business partner for 30 odd years, and my dad was a successful entrepreneur because he was great at selling, and so that was absolutely fine. But talking of this point about overselling, is that the turning point in our business for 35 years was when I was actually teaching selling to a group of people and doing video, and I realized I was overselling. I mean, I was actually meant to be training people on whatever, and I looked at the video back and thought, God, this bloke's he's really, really pushy. And I thought that at the end of the day, that I'd forgotten all the stuff about diagnosis and finding out what they need and what they want. I was doing all the things that were wrong. So I can totally understand that. Were there any moments where you've actually realized that you got from being good at sales to actually not being as good at selling, or is there anything?
No, I think I take your point about overselling, but actually I think we remained good at sales.
Right.
The problem was more for us that we kept on selling when we couldn't produce stuff, which didn't make for very long-term happy customers.
Right.
But there was still a sale to be made, so you had to make it.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
quite a difficult balance to strike, I think, to get the capability and sales flow right. And
Yeah.
if it's so deeply ingrained in you that you just have to do a little bit better. And I think there's a fear element too, is you might go out of business unless you keep selling.
Yes.
So you have to sell some more.
Yeah.
Because there could be a recession coming, or a this coming, or a that coming. So you've got to contract that. And
Yeah.
then you get into trouble because you've promised.
Now, most business owners often have an idea and they envisage the product or the service as being a world beater and various things like that. But at the end of the day, they may not have some customers, which is why we always say that test trading is tremendously important for us for a startup to find out. What would you say to a business owner that really hadn't thought about learning any skills in selling themselves? Should they employ somebody? Should they partner somebody? Or should they learn how to sell?
Not in the early days. I think A, they probably can't afford it. And B, as you say, it's that feedback that matters. So, if you're a solo entrepreneur or, if there's just two of you, whatever, you want to be talking to your customers. So you're going to be part of the sales process, whether you like it or not. But I think it's more a question of resetting your thoughts about what selling is, because I think people have this horrendous idea about what sales is, and they imagine they're going to morph into the sort of local psychopath if they go anywhere near selling anything, So I think it's more a question of actually getting it into your head that you can be a nice person and sell.
Yes. Okay. And in terms of confidence, how do you especially find this with young people, if you like, where being enterprising is probably the best career option for a lot of young people, but they haven't got a great deal of confidence in front of prospective customers or even existing customers. What would you say to somebody that's actually starting off to find a way of actually building up their confidence so they feel better in a dialogue? As you say, it's not like a horrendous psychopathic kind of thing. It's actually just about having a conversation, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's sort of 3 points I'd make over the course of our conversation about this. And, on the point of confidence, I mean, I think part of it is that fear of standing there and being rejected. I was so damn insecure when I was young. I mean, really cringing insecure. And I got into selling because I was put on the phone. And that was okay. I didn't mind that. If somebody hung up on me, that was the job. But whereas when, if I went out and somebody was rude to me or said that, it was pure personal. And I think that barrier, even the internet, doing it on a Zoom call or something, it's just that little bit less, for personal rejection. So, if you've got a body image problem, most of you's covered up. I mean, I've always had weight, so, but you don't have that to worry about. Your stomach muscles can go, all those things.
Brilliant. Yeah.
But I mean, I think just that little bit of distance can help build our confidence and test you. Is what I found, and I've gradually built up being able to talk to people and learning about the trade of selling, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can totally agree with it. So what we're saying there is actually find a medium that you feel more comfortable in to start learning how to create that. Brilliant.
And it's only for the first sort of contact, because that in-person contact won't be as bad as a cold contact. So if you've already spoken to them on Zoom, you know who they are and sort of what to expect. So it's not half as bad as going in cold. So, it's an icebreaker, a phone conversation, a Zoom, just take the level down a bit.
Yeah. Okay. And what would you say is, once you've got to the point where you're confident and you've built up a bit of confidence, what would you say is the most important thing for somebody to remember in the selling process? What do you say? Kind of like must points, I suppose. I'm trying to get you to.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is another great advantage of where sales has changed, because actually I think it comes even before the research, before the confidence rather. It's to do with research. We used to, I remember, in those days when I had to go and get a job at 19 or whenever, we would just chuck these lists of phone numbers to call with a name and a number, which you might get through on, and no other information whatsoever. And you can't sell like that anymore. I mean, you get the odd call, and I don't know how quickly you hang up, but I'm afraid it's pretty fast in my case. Absolutely. But on the whole, you can't sell like that. You have to actually have done your research, particularly in B2B sales. And the more research you do, the more you knock out people who aren't, or companies that aren't going to work, aren't a match, before you have the embarrassment of being chucked out on your ear. And the internet's made that so easy. But, to some extent, that lack of good research, it's just plain stupid. It is part of the selling process, and you really need to do it well, and you'll save yourself so much grief the more you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're referring. Yeah, no, great. Okay. And in terms of entrepreneurs that we know and speak to, are there any people that in terms of presentation really, and the fact that they, I always think of selling as a pulling activity rather than a kind of pushing activity really, and there are some entrepreneurs that I've learned from and various things. And one of the beauties of the internet is that we do have people that you can see in action almost every day doing something. Are there any entrepreneurs in the kind of public world where you could say to somebody, well, they're pretty good at this, winning over customers kind of thing? Or describe a business, a business owner that you've met or worked with that you felt actually got to the point where you would say they were good. They are good because they do this. You can actually see that in their behaviour.
I think, this is slightly left field, but oddly enough, I was sending her a message and back again on beloved LinkedIn this morning. Yeah. And there's a lady on LinkedIn called Kate Hall-Lacey, who's an Australian lady.
Yeah.
And she does the most marvelous little sales videos on LinkedIn. Right. And she's so authentic, and everything she says is so on point. It would be well worth anybody connecting with Kate Hall-Lacey.
Fantastic. That's absolutely perfect. It's just the kind of thing we love on Microbiz Matters Day. Thank you, Jan. Okay. Any other things that you would say to business owners out there about selling, basically, and winning customers, keeping customers?
Again, once you start chatting to people, don't go slap in and start selling. Consider that first thing is getting to know them. You wouldn't, if there's nothing, it's like, again, on LinkedIn, you get those ghastly messages, which are, can I connect? And would you be interested in services? Please buy this, madam. No, naff off. Basically, but no, it's if you view it as time well spent as the second part of your research, because what you're actually doing in getting to know them is to find out more about them so you can put a perfect offer together that is going to be of the best use to them.
Yes.
And that means also that you're going to be doing something of use, genuine service, and they're more likely to say yes. So the more you do that getting to know, the less selling you'll have to do.
Yeah, fabulous. Love it. Okay. And anything else you'd like to say?
We've covered confidence, haven't we?
Yeah.
I mean, credibility is another one I'm keen on, and I think that comes from really knowing your stuff. I think it's very difficult in the early days. I mean, most of us did it, certainly including me. I remember in the early days of the furniture business, going out with a notebook and, in theory, writing down what people were saying to me and, coming out of there thinking, how did you say that word? What the hell is it? Um, so
Yeah.
it's trying to find out what matching it in the dictionary from which was usually French, of course, as it turned out, being the interior design.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to be credible and feel credible the less you know. So try and really know and soak up your industry, soak up your subject, to give you natural confidence in what you're talking about. And I say, we've talked about confidence. And remember, the third one, and they're all C's, this is my last C of the tips. It's all about connection. You're just, all you're doing is making connection with another human being to see if what you do is going to be useful to them.
Yes.
Take the sales aspect out of your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now, funnily enough, that's a lovely word. Be useful is one of the 10 values in happypreneurship,
All right, brilliant.
It's the philosophy that I've created, the happypreneur. Be useful is actually a way of being and creates happiness. Because in actual fact, if you are credible, not in a fake imposter is fake it till you make it kind of way, but you are credible, then in terms of you've got something genuine of value to offer, then you're actually being useful to another person, which is fulfillment as well. So, it's to think of, everything you do in business as, actually being useful. And that's
Definitely.
great.
And that's where it's changed. You are actually being of service, and that matters. And it matters to people in the way they feel about themselves, and it matters to your receptive audience. Just as authenticity does, and that's what the lady I mentioned to you, Kate or Lacey, is so good at. You just get her straight on. She is so real, and I think that's lovely. But again, it's the service thing as well. I think that's really good, Tony. I love that.
Yeah, well, I think one of the great things that you've done in that last one about connections is one of the mysteries to me is why we've got in Yorkshire in Business, which I'm talking from at the moment. We've actually got some pop-up shops and a cafe and various things. We've got 5 buildings in the Scarborough, various things, but we've also got some shops that we're experimenting with for not just startup business makers at home, so they can actually sell things from our cafe shops and various. And it's surprising how few of these people, these makers, actually will go to the shop to do the selling themselves. In other words, they'd much prefer our staff to be doing the selling on their behalf, and yet that connection is like gold dust, isn't it? Really, that actually understand the learning that you get from that connection is gold dust.
Absolutely. That's why I think it's so important that early owners, business owners, do the talking to customers. Let's drop the scary word sales, the talking to customers themselves, because otherwise they can't develop what they do to be of best service.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless they listen to the customers.
That's lovely. Well, it's fantastic. Thank you for helping. I've got one final question for you, which is a kind of like a bit personal, really. I'm not personal, but business. It's just my curiosity. It's the fact that, like, what would you say is the big difference between what you do now and have been doing since the furniture company, if you like, in terms of you and your happiness as an entrepreneur? Because you've been an entrepreneur for a lot of years, Jan. I mean, I don't call myself an entrepreneur. You are an entrepreneur, but what would you say is the big difference in terms of how you feel about enterprise and life and business now, as opposed to when you had your own quite large furniture company.
It was at one stage, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm at a different stage of life, so that helps. When I started the furniture company, which wasn't the first business I'd had, but it was certainly the biggest. And I did it because I was a single mum and I needed the money.
And the furniture company was in your name always, wasn't it? So it was very, very personal. Was it called Jan Cavelle?
Because I was just selling from home, you see. So, I mean, I just was trading as Jan Cavelle as a solo entrepreneur. And then the whole damn thing took off. And of course, it was too late to change the name. So, actually, that's not something I'd recommend. That's another tip for you. But I was lumbered with it. You're quite right. And then when the children had left home, it wasn't something I loved anymore, and I was exhausted and burnt out and lots of things, and I'd imagined I'd retire when I stopped doing this. And actually what I've done is gone back to probably me before children, with no disrespect to my children who I love dearly, but being that solo person who's passionate about business, who's passionate about entrepreneurs and supporting entrepreneurs, been involved in, as you know, in lots of campaigns, and has always had this dream of writing. So, what a happy bunny and how spoiled am I? Yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked it was because I thought there'd be a bit of commonality, which is that I took a sabbatical 10 years ago. I went to Malta for a year and came back, and we then decided that we didn't want any teams or staff or anything anymore, and various things. And
a little bit stressy.
I've been writing and speaking and doing.
I know
a lot of the kind of ththings that you've been doing for the last 10 years.
I remember you saying in one of your speeches, and like it resonated immediately. I thought, I get that. I mean, it's a new lease of life. It's wonderful, actually.
Yeah. God. Well, it's been a fantastic pleasure talking to you, Jan. I'm really glad we got together, and just in time, because it's our last annual Microbiz Match Day.
I know, but I'm really honoured and delighted to be involved, Tony. Thank you so much for asking.
Very much, Jan. It's been brilliant. Take care.
And you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.